Welcome to New Realities. I'm Alan Steinfeld, and this program is an exploration of our evolving consciousness. And one of the subjects I love to cover, besides UFOs and ETs, is the phenomena of channeling. And I have to say, I've seen some of the best channels of our time and have interviewed them. And now I have someone else. I'm just meeting here, Jason Addison Ames. He's out of Sedona. Thanks so much for being here, Jason.
Thank you, Alan. It's good to be on the show. I admire your work and appreciate everything that you do.
Thanks. Yeah, I think channeling is our doorway through all the dogmas and all the things that have tried to put us into boxes. And when people's channeling through some high information, that gives us such new insights into possibilities.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I have to say, I'm new to channeling. Okay. And so I'd love to tell you a little bit about my story.
Yes, that's actually one of my favorite things to talk about. How do people get into this? Yeah, so tell me.
Yeah, so my background really is in corporate marketing. So I worked in New York City, across Europe, primarily France and Germany, San Francisco, Orlando. And that was my career. That was kind of my focus, was marketing. And then in 2019, I began to have a series of really fascinating, dramatic, and what some people might call bizarre things happen to me and happen around me. And so I've come to find out that it was something like a walk-in experience. And I'm sure
what were those bizarre things, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I began to see, feel, hear unseen beings that were all around me, and some of them were not very helpful beings, right. And then some were angels that came in and helped me to let's say combat the unhelpful beings.
Was that out of nowhere that they just appeared to you, or did something trigger it?
Well, it's interesting. Really, since March of 2012, I began to have these episodes, if you will, of 2 to 5 day events where I would have interactions with non-physical beings that were still difficult for me to understand what those things were. But
did you think you were going crazy? Sorry to interrupt you, but did you think
I had periods of time where I thought it was either going crazy or schizophrenic or something like that. Because it was really bizarre, and I could feel them. Many times I could see them, not all the time. They would move things in my apartment. It was really, really bizarre. And then, after those four, let's say that, 3 or 5 day event would end, I would kind of like shake it off and go, that couldn't have been real, even though it was so dramatically real. And so they would happen periodically from 2012 to 2019. And then in 2019, one of those episodes was occurring. And I really kind of had a breakdown in a way where I really, it was almost like people who have like an ego death. And you really give your life to a higher purpose or higher calling.
What facilitated that breakdown? I like to look at the nitty gritty of it, if you don't mind, because I like to feel people's experience. So what facilitated that kind of ego death?
Well, let's just say it got really, really bad. So the things that I were experiencing from these beings, and again, I don't really know who and what they were. Right. They would always identify themselves as a team, and it was generally five members in a team. And in that last occurrence, it was like torture what they were doing to me. And
what were they doing?
They were speaking to me. They were banging on the windows. It was almost like what you would imagine like the most terrifying horror movie that you've seen, of like a poltergeist or a haunting or something like that. Right. It was like that, only almost worse in some ways.
Were you freaking out? Were you saying, oh my God?
I was freaking out. Yeah, one of my dear friends, who's kind of always been a spiritual mentor, he lives in Brazil. And so this one night I Skyped with him and I said, you got to stay up with me all night. I don't think I'm going to make it. I thought I was going to die.
Where
And
were you at the time? I'm just
I
curious.
was I was in Orlando,
Okay.
Orlando, Florida, and I made it through the night. I was just combating them, and I finally said, I'm done with the pain of the past. I'm ready for something higher and better in my life. You know, I cried out to God, honestly, God and angels and whoever of a high vibration could help me and deliver me from that experience and all experiences like that. So then I really felt the presence of angels. I could feel wind coming through my house, and all the windows and doors were closed. I
How
could
did you know
feel,
they were angels and not other beings?
you know, you could tell by the vibration.
Okay. Okay.
It was almost like a scent in the air too. Almost like you could smell it, and it was like a beautiful fragrance.
Was it
It
like
was,
flowers? Yeah. What was the
yeah,
phrase?
let's say floral, herbal
Right.
in nature, and and so, but you know, I'm sure your viewers understand. You can feel the difference from a low vibrational being to a high vibrational being.
Yes.
It was a big difference. It was like from here to here, and and I also, you know, I already been telepathic with all of these beings. So in a way, all those experiences, which I now look on as great teaching experiences, it helped open my mind up to the fact that there are an amazing array of beings beyond humanity, many of them unseen, or at least unable to be seen by the human eye, and that I am extremely telepathic and able to sense those beings, feel energies, et cetera, et cetera.
Let me just ask you, were you just sorry to interrupt, but were you kind of a normal guy with a regular job, not interested in any of this kind of metaphysical stuff, or did you have some interest?
I was always interested,
Right.
always interested. And I'll tell you a little bit more about kind of my past, and it'll
Okay.
explain that.
Yes.
But I was always interested, but you know, I had like a corporate job,
Right.
and so you know, it's like two different worlds. So I would kind of deny all of those things because I had to live in that denial in order to kind of keep that job and do that,
Mm-hmm.
have that life.
Right.
But so the angels came in, and let me kind of give you more of the broader story.
Right.
Is
Right. Right.
I learned that kind of what was happening throughout that time was like a walk-in.
Mm.
So my soul that I had had to that point in time moved on, and I was reconnected to the angelic realms. So now let me go back in time and tell you what I've learned about myself, and then we kind of piece it all together.
Before you
Is
go there, I just want to invite you to the walk-in conference I'm hosting in January. So just keep that in mind.
Sure.
Okay.
I would love to attend, and thank you for the
Okay.
invitation.
Sure. Sure.
So I have learned from working with the guides, who I'll tell you about the guides in a moment, that I was born an angelic, and you know what that means, and I'm sure many of your viewers are familiar with this kind of concept, is that my higher self is an angel. So I don't have currently, and was not even born with a soul energy in the traditional sense. So I kind of skip the soul level energy, and I'm directly connected to the angelic realms through primarily Archangel Michael.
And that was the walk-in. So what happened to Jason, the original?
All right. So when
Mm-hmm.
I was born as an angelic. I didn't have
As
a soul when I was
Jason,
born.
before you walked in, before the walk-in. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then when I was 10, they assigned me a soul.
Oh.
And so then from 10 to however old I was in 2019, I had this soul. And from what
Mm-hmm.
I understand, the soul was given to me so I could learn and grow through various life situations in
Mm-hmm.
a way like a normal or
I
relatively
get it.
normal human being. So more of what I've learned, and you'll appreciate this because I know you love UFO extraterrestrial information, is I'm both an angelic and an alien.
Okay.
So I was, as I have been taught, created on board a ship by the Zetas from Zeta Reticuli, and was genetically created. I'm not even my mother's son or my father's son. I was created on a ship and was given to my mother as a host And she, of course, gave birth to me as what you would think of as a normal birth. I was taken along with my parents about 81 times throughout my youth and in life, let's say. And I was created by Metatron, Melchizedek, and the Ascended Masters to do the work that I am doing now and will continue to do. So what they said, it's almost like they created a spec sheet and they gave it to the Zetas and said, can you create this for us, please? And they did. And so
do your parents know this story? I'm just curious. And do they remember those times?
So my parents passed away in 2010 and 2015. So they've moved on. They don't know any of these stories. Although I have so many dreams of taken experiences, especially with my father. I remember seeing my father a lot, kind of like frozen. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with a lot of those taken stories. Is you become frozen and are unable to move.
Yeah.
And so it's similar, very similar to that. So so then kind of flash forward to 2019, life began to change really dramatically with the reconnection to the angelic realms and to the Ascended Masters.
So that soul was removed, that overlay of the human soul was removed, and you became who you were born as, in a sense, right?
Exactly. So it's almost like a reunification or reuniting with the original purpose of this life.
Right.
And the guides don't use my name. They call me it or this life. And they may explain to you why. But so then with that reconnection, my life changed dramatically and quickly. So I'm something like a symbiote. You may be familiar with that term.
No, I'm not familiar with that term.
So a symbiote, it's been used even in Marvel Comics. And it's a being that is a symbiotic being. So it's not just a human form that you see here. I'm able to host many different kinds of beings. And the angelics and the Ascended Masters are really always present in my body. So my thinking began to change. They think through me, they move through me. So they even move my eyes. If they want to draw my attention to something, they will literally turn my eyes to look at something.
All the time, or just when you're channeling, or this is happening throughout?
All the time. I'm an always on, all the time, 24 hours a day channel. Wow. So now when the guides come in, what I do is I step out of my body and I go to a place of light, kind of right over there, and really give them full control. But I would say most of the time when I'm, let's say, walking around town, driving, at the grocery store, they're moving through my body. And so it's a symbiotic relationship that I have with the angelics and with the Ascended Masters. Are
they moving through your body in order to experience 3D, or are they moving through your body in order to facilitate your higher consciousness, or something like that?
I think it's less about to experience 3D, although I think there are certain things that are interesting for them to experience. It's primarily mission driven.
Okay.
So it's very mission driven.
You're on a mission 24 hours, you're saying?
24 hours a day. I go to the grocery store, they move the cart around with me. They tell me what to eat. They introduce me to the right people. They will move my body to the right place at the right time. And then when I'm talking to the person, if I'm not channeling, they're talking to my ear, and I repeat what they say. You're familiar with that kind of idea.
Yeah. I'm glad they approved of me. Okay, tell them. Thank them for me, because it's always nice to get.
Well, they're here, so they hear you and they're grateful. Okay. There is nothing that I do in my life that is not approved by them. They pick out the clothes that I wear. They pick out the underwear that I wear. So if they didn't want this interview to happen, they would have said no.
Okay.
And they're very clear with me. So they're fans of yours, Alan.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so nice to have some higher dimensional beings. Thank you. Tell them thank you very much. I'm just doing this. I don't know who's watching, and I'm happy that it's happening on many levels. Really, that makes me feel good. So thanks.
Yeah. So all right. So let's flash forward a little bit to Sedona. So or actually, let's go back to Orlando. So remember, all this happened in Orlando.
Yeah.
Things moved fast, changed really fast. It was almost like I couldn't do my job anymore because it was at odds with who I had become.
Mm-hmm.
And so I ended up parting ways with my job, going into spiritual work full time. And in December of last year, so that's December of 2020, about December 10th, the guide said, move to Sedona.
Just last year, about a year ago, you're saying, a little less.
Well, about 9 months ago.
Right, right.
So December, they said, move to Sedona. I had never been to Sedona. I had heard of it, but never been. I found a place to live sight unseen and moved here in January of 2021, January 29th of 2021. So about a month and a half later, after they told me to move, I moved to Sedona, and it's been an incredible experience. And the guides talk a lot about Sedona, and I'm sure they're going to, when we invite them to come in and talk with you, they will talk about Sedona.
It's one of my favorite places. I've been going there since 1983. Every single year I've been to Sedona. But I'd love to, can you just tell me a little bit before we get to the guides, what is it about Sedona?
Well, they say Sedona is the most important place in the world, period.
Wow.
And, I'm going to, I'm many times having two conversations at the same time. I'm talking to you.
If you feel like they want to say something, don't hold back.
Yeah. Well, so I think what they'd like to do is they'd like to tell you more about Sedona themselves. I mean,
okay.
I gave you like the little intro.
So you could finish your story and then we'll talk to them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm here, I work with people. I founded a company called Wave Foundation, WAVVE Foundation. And that's my work that I do. I do energy work as well. I'm a true channel in a sense that even with energy work, I can channel all kinds of energies. So angelic healing energies, Enochian healing energies, even plant medicine energies. So I can channel ayahuasca energy, for example, with people that I work with in that healing modality, and also channeling. So I channel with people one-on-one, with couples, groups. I do events, etc. And then I also do public speaking myself, and that has really taken off. I work internationally already, and it's really the guides doing it. So I want to be very clear. It is the guides that are drawing all of this together that are making this happen. I am truly the vessel of it. And so I work, do that kind of work. And then I also work with leaders here in Sedona as kind of like a coordinator, an encourager. And so the guides are working through me with the different kind of leaders in Sedona in the different sectors.
What kind of leaders do you mean? Like leaders politically, or who? What kind of leaders?
No, let's say leaders in the different movements. So consciousness, extraterrestrial, what you would call maybe new age, spiritual, healing communities, these kinds of things, so that the guides can provide information to them that help them, let's say, be the best leaders that they can be.
Did you know Mark and Jonathan from the
Okay. Yeah, they're very dear friends. I work with them.
Great.
On a regular basis.
People. And Zinka, of course, said she loved you. My friend Zinka said you were great.
Oh, I adore Zinka Caro. I mean, amazing person. Yeah. So Mark and Jonathan have Sedona Quantum Consciousness work that they do here. So I'm actually going to be beginning a weekly channeling series in their space starting on the 12th of October. So that's very exciting. And then also I'll be doing a big event, which I'd love for you to come to if you're able, in January 21st, 22nd, and 23rd at the Sedona Creative Life Center.
I love that.
And I'll be doing it with it's an amazing place. Torquem Saradarian, I'm sure you know that name. If you don't, he has some books that he had written.
You're doing it with him, this event? What's his first name? You said Torquem
Saradarian, and Torquem's not with us anymore. He founded the Creative Life Center. He founded what it was before the Creative Life Center, but really founded it as a beacon of consciousness. And so anyway, so I'm having this event there, January 21st, 22nd, and 23rd of next year with my dear friend, Suzanne Worthley. And she's out of Minneapolis, and she is a galactic and does amazing work in the hologram with people. Very talented person. So we're hosting an event in January called The Angel and the Alien. I'm Angel Perspective, and she's representing the alien perspective. It's a 3-day event. It's meant to be an event of unity. You know, I talked about those different kind of silos of people in Sedona, or really even around the world, is that many times you have people that are studiers of consciousness studies, and they don't talk to the other groups. They don't talk to maybe the healers, or they don't talk to the UFO community, or the healers don't talk to the UFO community. They do their own thing. Right. So it's meant to be a real unification event where you have people of different perspectives come, and we share the way we see reality and consciousness through different perspectives. And it's going to be very interactive. So people will be able to share their perspectives as well in a safe place that respects all perspectives, right? And the guides are really adamant about bringing all the different fractals of the, what you would say, consciousness community together under one roof. So it also will have some social times in it too. So there'll be what we're calling a galactic bar, like wine and cheese and some food and stuff like that, and some coffee social hours as well.
Are you still evolving as a kind of conduit?
A lot of integration has taken place in lightning speed time, but I'm pretty confident there will always be integration throughout the rest of my existence. So, even the channeling, it always gets better and better. It always gets stronger and stronger. So it's ever evolving.
Can you just talk about some of the intense moments in your process, if you care to share? Like, what were one of the obstacles you've had to overcome and kind of break through to another level of your own mind?
Yeah. I think, the biggest, and this is a broad idea, has been the breaking down of belief systems. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that the guides really talk a lot about. And as I see them work with people, it's fascinating that they work so eloquently and beautifully, is that they are very focused on transformation and breaking down people's structure of belief, which keeps them from evolutionary growth. And they many times they have this kind of word equation: belief equals weakness, knowing equals strength, and try to get people beyond belief systems and structures that are many times old, antiquated, and inherited. Mm. So they've accepted belief systems that are truly not their own, right, but they're adopted. And they never spent time. I just gave a lecture
about that, knowing versus believing. Gnosis means immediate knowing. And then exactly. And belief, I call belief make believe. You can make yourself believe anything. So all belief is make believe.
Yeah, and that's why, like when the Gnostics came under fire by organized religion and different kind of groups like that, it's because they didn't want people to think for themselves. The right. idea of gnosis became a bad word at that point in time.
Yeah, right.
And even even now in, let's say, fundamentalist Christian circles, if you bring up the Gnostics, they're seen as heretical. But those were really the ones that were encouraging knowing and not belief.
Well, I just want to ask you, maybe I should save it for the guides, about the knowing part versus thinking and believing, because some people say there were the archonic consciousness that came in and usurped the knowing and replaced it with thinking, which is not knowing, it's thinking, which is a kind of removal from immediate reality. Are you familiar with that kind of concept of? Are they familiar with that? Or we can talk about it later, maybe.
Well, I'm sure they are. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever talked about it in that way.
No, there's an overlay of these other ETs that have actually taken over our minds, in a sense, and have instituted believing and thinking as opposed to gnosis, which is knowing.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's what the guides are really confronting in many ways,
Mhm.
and are encouraging people like us and your listeners, your viewers, to the more you activate yourself, or the more one activates themselves as a knower and not a thinker or a believer, the more effect it has on all of those around you.
Yeah.
So they really encourage that in everyone that they work with. And they, someone referred to me the other day as a shock channeler. And I
Well,
thought that was an interesting topic or interesting title. And I asked the guides, I said, how do you feel about that? And they said, we like that because they are not here, although they operate from a place of love, joy, and peace. And they talk about the fruit of the spirit a lot, if you're familiar with all those things, but they are not here to paint pretty pictures that don't serve the highest good for humanity and those that they work with. So they are more than happy to speak the truth in love, even if it's unpleasant truth. So they really try to break down those belief systems, kind of wake people up, shake them up a little bit, and say, let's move beyond belief into knowing. Let's move beyond thinking into action too. Is
right.
that, there are many people, especially that work in, let's say, the world of consciousness or spirituality or high vibrational work, and they're great researchers. They carry a lot of knowledge, but they're not putting that into action. And it is that, the word, right? It is that word of manifestation that is really needed. So they're big
Because
activators.
it's otherwise it's philosophy, and there's libraries full of philosophy, but they're not full of experience and being. So I know exactly what they mean, and I'm happy that they shake people up and shake them out of an old belief, because belief is what keeps us stuck. So I'm totally with everything
Exactly.
you're saying.
Yeah. When it comes to the evolutionary process of humanity, what they talk about, and you hear Paul Selig talk about this, and I want to tell you who the guides are in a moment, because there's lots of similarities to the wonderful work that Paul does, is moving beyond the known into the unknown. I'm sure you've heard the guides talk about
Well,
that.
that's my favorite thing. That's why I love the UFO phenomena, because no one really knows what it is. And if you think you know, you definitely don't know. It is the unknown for our moment of civilization. So yeah, I'm totally there. And yeah.
So I'd love to tell you who the guides are, and then
Yes,
I think they'd like to come in and visit with you for a little bit.
I'd love
So
to.
the, so the guides are a collective, and what that means is many different voices that speak as one voice. And so they are angels, ascended masters. Melchizedek is a member. Extraterrestrials, interterrestrials, and as you know, there are many different beings that live within the earth.
Mhm.
Master teachers, great teachers, trees.
Mhm.
Trees have an extraordinary consciousness that goes far beyond planet Earth. Nature spirits or devas, and then just spirits. So it's a big collective.
Any
There are
whales in
some.
that collective? I'm just curious because I have
I'm going
some.
to ask. So no whales.
Okay.
There are sometimes dolphins that
Okay.
participate. Yeah. Um, part of what I can do
Mm,
and what the guides can do, it's similar to the way Paul works.
right.
Paul and I are in some ways cut from similar cloths.
Right.
I can speak to any being anywhere at any time if it be for the highest good and that being is available.
Mhm.
So, if people wish to, and the guides can too, of course. So if people wish to tap into either someone who is alive and get some information on them with the approval of their soul and higher self, or someone has moved on, or let's say when someone wants to talk to the whales,
Yeah.
it's that's something we can do. But generally, who I mentioned is who's part of the collective. They live outside of linear space and time, and they are, really focused on the evolution of humanity. So
But let me just
that's
ask you, why did those particular beings come together, work through you? Is there some kind of bond between those beings?
Yes, it's a great question. I don't really know the answers, but they just told me yes. What I do know and have been taught is there is a very close bond between the angelics and the ascended masters. And Archangel Michael is a member of the Council of the Ascended Masters of the Order of Melchizedek. And that really, if I would say like what feels like family to me is the angelics and the Ascended Masters feel especially like family to me. But I know on the extraterrestrial front, which I know you'll appreciate, Arcturians, Palladians of Alcyone, Vegans, Syrians are part of the collective. And sometimes they will step to the front of the guides and speak directly too. So yes, there seems to be a bond. They all work together very closely. And sometimes the composition changes a little bit based on who I'm speaking to. So it's always a very personalized experience for anyone that works with the guides.
But do you think it was, and then we can get to the guides, but I just think what your work is about is because we're at such a crucial time in the planet's history, such a momentous threshold that we need as much help now as we can get from all these realms in order for us to cross the threshold into a new reality.
I think that's exactly true. And I think the guides will talk to you more about that,
Okay.
what they see. Let me just ask if they're ready to come in, or if there's anything else they'd like for me to say. Yeah, so they're ready to come in if you are.
Yeah, just when you're talking to them, what are you getting? Are you just getting thoughts and words, or how are you hearing them?
It's like a conversation like you and I are having.
Okay.
So I just said to them, I said, so is there anything else you want to say, or are you ready for them to come in? And then they moved my head. So when you saw my head shake yes or no,
Okay.
that was them moving my head.
Right.
So
I get it.
yeah, I have full-on conversations just as I would have with another person with them.
And just tell me how, because I asked Daryl Anka this, and he was really great when he said what he actually does in order to get out of the way and bring the other consciousness in. So what exactly do you do to start the channeling process?
Yeah, so I always start with a prayer of protection, and I'll do that before they come in today. And it's the same prayer actually that Paul uses, and Melchizedek gave me the same words to say, and then they come in and they're already here, so they're always present here. What I do is I literally take myself and I move it over there is the best way to describe it. It's always over there to a place of light. And I am in a way observing, but trying to do so as little as possible. There's a term that the guys use through Paul that's I am in the upper room.
Yeah.
So I say that, and I place myself in the upper room, and I watch from the upper room, and they more fully come into my body. And I think it's different than the way Daryl works. Daryl works more like a radio, I think is how he describes it.
Yeah.
Mine is more like that symbiotic relationship. Their energies like step into my body, and I take some of myself out so they can fully inhabit the body. Does that make sense?
That's different than Paul Selig a little bit, because he doesn't quite remove himself, I think, in the same way you're talking about, which is fine. Everyone has their own style, but you seem to be more out of the way than maybe I haven't seen Paul in a few years, but how he was doing it. But it's all fine. So
yeah. Oh, to me, it's fascinating stuff. And I gotta say that, I'll tell you this quick little story, is that, when the guides started to work through me and teach me all of this stuff, they wanted me to get a subscription to Gaia Television. So I got a subscription, and they wanted me to start watching this series called Interviews with EDs, Extra-Dimensionals.
Right, Ruben Langdon. Actually, I was thinking of trying to get you in touch with Ruben So we could
Yeah.
get on, you could get on a show. Have you?
Yeah, I'd love to meet him because I really fell in love with him and his work. They had me watch his series, and when I first started watching it, I literally said, "Click, this is freaky."
Mm-hmm.
And they said, "Can you just keep watching it, will you, please?" And so I finally started to watch it, and literally between episodes of Ruben's show,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I started channeling. And it
Wow.
was Metatron who first came through. And that was the first channeling experience I had. And I just thought it was amazing. I just thought it was really cool. First it was kind of freaky, but then it just got really cool. So that's how I got started with it. Anything else, guides? No. So they're ready to come in if you
All
are.
right. I'm excited to meet them. I always like meeting new beings from other dimensions.